Good evening, guys. Bill McMillan here with NDWX.com. Friday evening, just after 7 o'clock, as we record this video update for you. Just wanted to touch base as we go into the upcoming weekend. And no big changes to our ongoing incredibly warm January thaw. Temperatures right now running nearly 25 degrees above where we should be at the 7 o'clock hour. 52 degrees, 7 o'clock in mid-January is really hard to come by, as we know. Got to enjoy it, that's for sure. Temperatures tomorrow go into the middle 60s across central Indiana, especially if we see any sunshine whatsoever. I will say, though, it's going to be an active weather day, and really weekend for that matter, across the country, as a developing storm system off the lee of the Rockies heads east and will tap into Gulf of Mexico moisture. Severe weather outbreak will unfold across the southeast. And we aren't out of the woods yet here, I don't think, for some potential of locally heavy rain. We'll discuss that here in just a moment. As a whole, though, tonight is going to be mild, mostly cloudy, some patchy fog developing. I think most of us stay dry. Now, as mentioned, big story this weekend is the incredible warmth. Temperatures nearly 30 degrees above where we should be tomorrow afternoon as we go into the mid-60s across most of central Indiana. And unfortunately, we do have to continue to keep an eye on the chances of rain, maybe some locally heavy rain at that. We're keeping a very close eye on some of our higher resolution, shorter term forecast models right now. They're a little bit more aggressive with the rain and embedded thunder chances here over the weekend, and we'll discuss that. But a significant severe weather outbreak is looming across the southeast region, including Mississippi and Alabama as we go into the day on Saturday. Some tornado potential there as well, especially I think across southwestern portions of Alabama. We'll have to keep an eye on that for our friends down south. But looking at the GFS forecast model, we'll put this into motion for you, and we'll take this out through the day Saturday and into Sunday. Keep your eye here on the lee of the Rockies as an area of low pressure develops and tracks east underneath what is a developing block across southern Canada, keeping this storm a little bit further south than what it looked like earlier in the work week. But as we continue to progress this forward, notice that the GFS is beginning to see the potential of some rain creeping into Indiana and the Ohio Valley, for that matter, as we go into the day Sunday and on into Monday with some showers. One thing we're very confident on is the breezy to windy conditions that will develop here late in the weekend and on into early next week. We may have some gusts around 40 miles per hour. Continuing to fast forward this will show that area of low pressure begin to transfer its energy off the coast. And as we go into the day Tuesday into Wednesday, this will become more of a northeastern storm system to contend with. Now, the GFS isn't quite as aggressive on rainfall potential this weekend, particularly Sunday, as the high-resolution NAM is. And we want to show you this. We'll fast forward through the day Saturday. I think most of tomorrow, again, is going to be dry across central Indiana with warm conditions as we go into the mid-60s. But putting this into motion moving into Sunday will show that it's a little bit more aggressive with the opportunity of some locally heavy rain developing, maybe even a little bit of a embedded thunderstorm action as well, particularly Sunday afternoon into Sunday night across central Indiana. And we'll keep an eye on that as the chances of a band of embedded heavier rain setting up on the outer periphery of the low pressure system to our south seem like a potential idea here if we go with the high resolution NAM of coming to fruition. Whether or not that does in fact occur, we've got a little disagreement. Are we looking at more of just showery, windy, blustery conditions early next week, or are we looking at more of a concentrated band of heavier rain? Yet to be determined, but just keep an eye on the Sunday afternoon, Sunday night forecast as we continue to fine-tune that as we move forward. Before we discuss the MJL, I want to go back to the GFS here and put this into motion. Now, the theme moving on into next week, particularly the second half of next week and into week 2, is going to be a colder, more wintry type pattern as we would come to expect here across the Midwest in late January. And we really get into the act here as we go into the latter portions of next week. We're moving into Friday here as a cold front passes and shifts our airflow around to the northwest. And this is going to become the predominant direction here of the wind as we go into next weekend and on into early parts of week 2. And with that, I think we've got some potential, at least, of tapping into some upper level energy and northwest flow. It can be challenging at times, particularly as we go into February and March as clipper systems become involved. We'll have to fine-tune details, but as a whole, it seems more active, certainly much colder and wintry, with snow prospects rising as we go into week 2, courtesy of that fast northwest flow and colder conditions in place. Accumulation certainly on the table as well, I think, and the models will really struggle with handling the specifics of this upper energy until we really get closer to the event. Just know the overall pattern does scream clipper potential for late next week and on into early portions of February, I think. Beyond that, as we've discussed here with some of the longer term data, the longevity of any sort of cold wintry pattern remains in question. We have a post on ndwx.com that goes into a little bit more detail around that. I encourage you, if you haven't already, to check that out. The latest European monthly MJO forecast does swing the MJO into the colder phases of 1 and 2 before we go into the wheelhouse here and kind of reset things. And whether or not this emerges into phase 8, which would be a warmer phase, or not, is a little bit too early to tell. But needless to say, in the short term, over the next couple of weeks, we are confident in that colder pattern developing here, as you can see with phases 1 and 2. Needless to say, keep an eye on things as to the extent of the cold. Teleconnections really are a bit in kind of conflict with one another, if you will, and there's nothing new with that. That's been the story and the struggle to get any sort of sustained cold wintry conditions to lock in across our part of the country all winter long. We take a look at the PNA, and in the short term, the European ensemble does show that popping positive, which again is an encouraging sign if you like it cold here across the east. But if we look a little bit further out, at least the 12Z GFS ensemble does show that PNA trending negative again into early February, which would scream by at least mid-February for a warmer regime to take over yet again, as we kind of just look at a transient type pattern all in all. We do have a couple of things, though, guys, that we have to be mindful of, and that's the tendency for more of a blocky type look to the overall pattern as we go through the back half here of winter. Potentially could lock a colder pattern with more sustained nature, if you will, into the east. And in addition to that, there's also a sudden stratospheric warming event taking place that can wreak havoc on longer term forecast models, as well as they may have to play catch up to potential cold in the longer term, meaning in the middle and latter parts of February. So a rather low confidence forecast, if you will, once we get into the middle and latter parts of February. We are very confident on a flip to colder as the calendar flips into into February. And again, a challenging northwest flow as well with clipper potential next week. Guys, that will do it for the update here this evening. Make it a great weekend. We'll have an updated 7-day later tonight or first thing tomorrow. We'll talk with you soon.